Smooth 98.1.
Max, all right. Studio's live. Good morning to you, and thank you very much for staying tuned to Smooth 98.1. We really appreciate you. This station, of course, is a love music, love life radio station, and at this time, we bring you detailed analysis of our newspaper stories inside Freshly Pressed 981. My name is Valentine Ohu.
I am Ayo Mairo Ese. Good morning, Lagos.
We're joined by Funmi Odude and Ugo Dre. Good morning.
Good
Morning,
morning.
sir.
Good morning, sir. Ugo Dre is at Ugo Dre on Twitter. Funmi Odude is at Funmi Odude on Twitter. Send your messages through WhatsApp.
WhatsApp is 0809 444 So that's 0809 444
We're streaming live on YouTube. That's youtube.com/smooth981FM Lagos. If you check us out on Instagram live at smooth981, you can watch live in the studio and leave messages there as well.
Also on Twitter, you can send your messages through to us at smooth981FM. Use the hashtag FRESHLYPRESSED981 so we can easily track your messages. Let's move on to our first story. Ugo, I'll come to you for this. A nationwide blackout as power grid collapses from the new Telegraph. Now, a number of people complained or they stated that they didn't have, like, they were thrown into utter darkness yesterday. Some people thought it was because of the strike that was going on with the electricity workers, but that isn't the case, as we have this story that the power grid collapsed. So the National Electricity Transmission System suffered total collapse for the 12th time between January 1 and December 11. So almost one collapse per month if we were to aggregate it for the whole year. But what's really going on, Ugo?
Um, I don't know if it's because of the strike or not, but what is pretty clear is that the power grid collapsed, and even
No, it wasn't tied
yeah,
to the strike.
as at this moment, I still didn't have light at
Really?
home. Yeah, and why I mean, it's difficult to say whether it's not tied to the strike, because usually when you have electricity employees go on strike, then it means that there are probably people not manning power stations and injection shop stations and all of that. So if you don't have people manning those things, then it is likely that some stations won't peak power or load, as they call it. So when they don't peak power, then the system now sort of loses some kind of balance.
Yeah.
And like they say, we don't have a spinning reserve. So when stations don't peak load, what typically happens is that the system just shakes and then it collapses. So there hasn't been any statement yet to confirm whether that was the cause or not. But the suspicion is that the coincidence is just there. Like they gone on strike yesterday, and then just in the afternoon system just collapsed. Because typically, like, a lot of the distribution companies didn't work, at least in Lagos.
Yeah.
Excuse me, Ikeja didn't, there was nobody there, Eko as well. So, and most of their satellite offices as well. So, it is likely that, because they couldn't, and Lagos, between Eko and Ikeja, I think they take up about 25 or so percent of the total power that Nigeria draws. Yeah. So, if there are, issues with, power supply or disruptions for those two distribution companies, then it could likely trigger a system collapse. I mean, mine is that I just don't know why they allowed this strike to happen yesterday. I mean, like, maybe this could have been avoided, but then this is just what it means when there's certain critical assets that we need to protect better in Nigeria, right? So if oil workers go on strike, Nigeria is basically grounded. So electricity workers go on strike, Nigeria. If which ones again? ASU goes on strike. So like, there's just several things that like, it's just tight. Doctors as well can wake up tomorrow and go on strike. Everything is just grounded. So I don't know. There's just got to be maybe some kind of legislation around how people can still exercise their right to go on strike or to protest, but without affecting the country, because if it collapses, there are people in hospitals that is affecting their, livelihoods are basically impacted negatively.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but and this is one too many. We've had several grid collapses this year already.
Yes.
Yeah, several grid collapses, and it just shows how weak our transmission network is. And the kind of capital investments that the power companies need to make to ensure that we have a stable grid, and that we don't have a spinning reserve till now. It's actually unfortunate, because usually spinning reserves means that whenever you have maybe load imbalances, it just comes in and sort of balances the load, and then the grid now stays. But if you keep having a system grid collapse, and it's the number of grid collapses we have this year compared to previous years, I've never seen. Like, this is just incredible. It's almost like grid collapses now like general blackouts, like outages, right? So, and it never happens. Typically, before you see a grid, I remember, was it in Babangida's era when we had one major grid collapse like that they basically sentenced all the old NEPA officials then to jail. I don't know if you guys remember, several years ago, and then they had to beg, and then Babangida now just forgive them.
That's how almost unacceptable it was.
Back then,
in
it
South
wasn't
Africa,
done.
They're having
Couldn't
an
even
issue
imagine
with the national grid as well, and the president cut short an international visit to deal with the issue.
Yes,
I don't know. I think our president has traveled out now. In this.
They don't feel it anyway. But
when has power ever been a top issue
for us?
But a grid collapse is it's a big. That's like the entire country. So, and usually it goes on for 10 an hour, sometimes 2 hours, and then before it restores, they restore gradually. So it's not like the thing comes back. So they start to restore, from one station to the other, and then over like an hour or two. So it's not something that like
we shouldn't be
taking it lightly at all. Grids shouldn't just
12 in a year, meaning that if we're saying we should spread it out, at least just expect one grid
collapse from one.
It's really short. It's really bad. And then I'm glad you've already touched on the story on the National Union of Electricity Employees strike. Just to mention that Thisday reports that they've suspended their strike action, and I'm very mindful of the word used there, suspend. So it means that they're not. Their terms haven't been met. So, I mean, what do you think the government, they did actually give the government a 21-day ultimatum, which wasn't, they didn't get any response, hence the reason why they embarked on this strike. What should they be doing? What should we, so as to avoid this happening again?
Well, the government should engage better and more effectively. They had 21 days to avert this, and they did not avert it, and then it happened. So by calling it off this morning, you kind of just ask yourself, like, was there any need to even do it in the first place? Like, why can't you guys just avoid these things? Like, you've basically just, cost, the country billions of naira.
Yes.
And then what are the consequences for things like this? Like, I mean, don't people have KPIs, right? If you have your KPI of, avoiding, strikes, or actions like this, then people would do a lot more work to avoid it. So you had 21 days, they give you 21 days notice. You should have sat with them, negotiated, try to avoid this. It didn't happen. 10 days, 5 days, 4 days, even the night before you could, and then they now go on strike, and then you guys now sit down, and then you now call it off. And the calling off is that you still haven't agreed to do everything that you've said. You've said, okay, you're going to do it, so you still need to implement them. So why wait till now, when they had to go on strike? And this is why unions go on strike, because they know that it works. They know that, look, if you don't take government to, the extreme, if you don't take things to the extreme, then they will not listen to you. They won't yield. And that is why this has happened.
Which essentially underscores the fact that it's only when it pinches the big wigs that's when the response will be this quick. Because many people listening to you be like, okay, power outage, is that something new? Grid collapsing? Doesn't that happen every day already?
Shouldn't happen every day. Okay, grid collapses.
It's just what I'm
It's
saying.
not like blackouts.
Yeah. But Benga Kamu says it wasn't just the grid collapsing. The strike also contributed to the blackout experienced in the country between yesterday and now. We should have smaller grids for different parts of the country. How expensive are grids to build, or how affordable are they for the companies?
When you say, do you mean smaller grids or mini grids?
Smaller grids.
I mean, compared to building a national grid, building a national grid is billions of dollars. That's a lot of investments. But mini grids are much cheaper. I mean, 10, 15 million dollars. It depends on who you're serving and the population you're serving and the demand there. So you can have Nigeria has a mini grid regulation. I think it's about 1 or 2 megawatts or so max that you can do. So and just serves the community and all of that. So that happens. But then mini grid still rides on. I think the rides on the disco's distribution lines, not the transmission lines. So it's effective as well. In some countries they do use mini grids.
I wonder what the conversation with Siemens is now.
That is still on, I guess.
It's still on.
Yeah.
Okay. MI from Akoka says, we always have to wait until things get to the cliff. Bad enough, we do not have enough power supply, but we can't manage the facilities we currently have. Why do I think that this power grid collapse isn't a natural result of wear and tear? The curious case of Benjamin Butler. I just hope there's light at the end of this page.
Modupa Sanda on YouTube says, Occupy Nigeria had a measurable impact on the Nigerian economy in 2012. Let's stop all this reminiscing of the military era, please. Are we suggesting PHCN should be arrested for going on strike? We didn't actually quite allude to that. And then he says, again, the government has always ignored threats until unions go on strike. Minimum wage did not happen until there was a threat of a strike before the elections. I think, Ugo, just to clarify that point, you were just talking about
how serious,
it was taken. When the national grid collapsed during the military era, people
Yes, that's what I was saying.
Consequences.
There were serious consequences.
All right, let's move on to our next story. Now, talking about consequences, the Nigerian government is investigating SSS court invasion, according to the Minister of Justice and Attorney General of the Federation, Abubakar Malami, who said this yesterday that the Federal High Court, the invasion of the Federal High Court was being investigated, and the federal government had ordered that something must be done. What do you think? I'm glad Barrister Funmi is here to speak about this. Please tell us what you take us through the story.
You know, I've never, I'm not sure we've ever had the government that speaks from both sides of the mouth like this administration. I mean, different officials just come out with different positions, and we're beginning to wonder. Some officials defending the position, and now we're seeing our AGF saying that the government is investigating the issue. If it's true that the government is investigating, and that means they must acknowledge that indeed what was done was totally out of order, and it will be glad if they're investigating now. But there are two things I think there are two things about this issue. The first is the manner in which the arrest was done, which is what has caused most of the uproar. But another thing is the fact that the arrest itself was done. And we're still waiting days after the arrest to find out why. I mean, a pertinent thing is that the court had granted him bail. That order was obeyed for less than, say, 12 hours, 12 to 24 hours. Now, one major thing about this arrest that likes me is the fact that they were stepping out of court. Therefore, if any reason they had, so they were right before the court to say, these are the reasons to revoke his bail. This is not, if there were issues of national security involved, they were literally just stepping out of the place to push forth the argument that, okay, we have so reasons, we would like his bail revoked. But the fact that they didn't think the judicial process was necessary before. So the manner in which it was done is enough to call for a form of investigation. But the fact that we still have not heard the reason why the arrest took place. So even if it was outside the court premises when the arrest took place, it ought to still have caused the same uproar. So we're waiting for answers as to why it was done. And then I hope this is not just because I don't want to use the word accosted. It was sort of accosted by journalists. It wasn't a press conference. So I hope this is not just some quick on the feet answer to journalists that he just happened by. And then we hear nothing again, and then it just goes on until I don't know whether to say they're tired of keeping him or what have you. So we hope that it's an investigation that we hear the conclusion of.
All right, Shegun from Lagos says, which probe? When you've taken side already. Funmi, now that you're talking about it, I mean, taking from your description of how the government's response in this case, it's almost speaking from both sides of the mouth. In a reaction to this incident, the Punch and some other newspapers, I think Thisday joined yesterday as well. The reaction is from the presidency to the stance of the newspaper. Major General Buhari, you don't have the right to change Buhari's official title, is what the presidency is telling the Punch. And interestingly, this story is reported by The Guardian, the report that we're taking on. The presidency yesterday said that it was not within the power and rights of a newspaper to unilaterally change the official title of President Muhammadu Buhari, who was here in this report mentioned as twice elected as a democratically elected president. He said, based on this, because obviously we know that they were reacting to the editorial policy of Punch on Wednesday, where the paper said it would henceforth address the president as Major General Muhammadu Buhari, which was the last rank before retirement from the army, based on the way that they're acting now. Your thoughts, Funmi?
Okay, so Ugo and I were discussing this downstairs, and we asked, there are some things that is just better I think you keep quiet rather than respond to. I mean, if you read through the response.
So who should be quiet here? The press or
the
president?
The government.
The government. When you read Punch editorial and you read this response, I mean, you just want to like, why did you guys bother? To start with, it is true. Nobody has the right to change a man's official title. But what Punch has done is not to change. Is the official. What they have said is symbolic. We would refer to him. They have not, I mean, they don't have the power to change. But what they have said is, from henceforth, we would refer to him as Major General Muhammadu Buhari for these reasons. And then when you come back, I mean, if you read through their response, you then go to say, oh, you guys are being partisan. Because guess what? During Obasanjo's time, he did some unconstitutional things as well, and you guys did not refer to him as that. In fact, when we're under military regime, under Babangida, when he demanded that he be referred to as president, you guys did nothing about that. I mean, how is that a response to that kind of editorial? And then you go, the amazing part of the response is the fact that you guys can even go to bed and sleep in peace after that kind of kiss shows that the freedom we're screaming about is not that we are not violating free press in any way. It's just I think it would just have been better for
I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but if you're listening right now, this was an editorial. This is not the first editorial that was critical of the government or that highlighted some of the failings of the government in some sort. Why reacting to this if you don't feel like there's anything wrong with what they said? I mean, rather, if they're not pointing out something that's wrong with your behavior.
Why reacting sensationally? The editorial mentioned specific names, specific orders, specific incidents that they feel have led to why they have taken the stand. And then you're just, it feels like a sensational reaction. Like,
I like
the substance.
Why is reacting to this on WhatsApp? It says the PR team is basically disjointed. Wasn't it Femi Adesina that said they don't mind?
Exactly.
Another is saying they don't have. Just like what you're saying, speaking from both sides. Please, they should get their acts together. Nothing wrong with what Punch has done, even though I don't like some of their reporting. Anyway, says me you are. So a number of people have called for other media organizations.
I think Post Nigeria even decided they were going to do worse. I think they said that dictator
or whatever. I mean, at the end of the day, what you can't deny is that he's a democratically elected president. So whatever media or the press wishes to call him is their prerogative. So do you really have to respond to that? I mean, so let history determine whether you, even though you were democratically elected, you actually did perform. You abided by the Constitution.
The truth is that
and
that's it. We want a response. We want a reaction. The reason why you take a stance is so that you want to draw attention, so that this is your own way of protesting. Let me couch it in bad behavior, what you feel is not democratic behavior. So we want a response, but not this kind of response. We don't want you justifying why. We want you to say, okay, we have seen what you're saying. We understand that people are not pleased with the way the government.
Not this media team. No.
From Ikoyi says, if we really want to face the truth, the government is a reflection of the average Nigerian. wants to have fun without responsibility. That's why they talk without reasoning, because actually it seems clueless and no one seems to be in control. What do you expect? The president does not have a hold on his own. How do we expect him to have a hold on the country?
Wow.
That's a statement from Shegun.
All right, let's move on to our next story. Well, now it says that senators are seeking 20% of federal budget for constituency projects. This is in light of the fact that a few weeks back we had a story talking about the fact that majority of the Senate of the House hadn't embarked on any constituency project, despite the fact that they've had considerable amounts of time since they took the oath of office as senators. What do you have to say about this? The bill is seeking to reserve 20% of the annual budget of the federal government for constituency projects, and it has passed second reading in the Senate.
This is what when you're in a beer parlor and you see this kind of headline, your friends just say, "Oh boy, weak." You see that thing, I weak. Like, well, I read this and I'm like, 20% of federal budget. So federal budget is about 8.9 or thereabout trillion. So they want 1.6 trillion.
It has passed second reading.
For constituency. In fact, they did not, all lawmakers, when the Senate president asked them to vote, everybody supported the bill. Nobody even spoke against it. I didn't even think anybody said anything. Everybody was just hurry up, let's just vote for this one. And they voted, and then it passed. I mean, like, it's incredible. 20%. How do they even come up with this thing? So 20% is about, assuming the current budget, that's 1.8 trillion naira. And how much is your capex? Your capex budget is about 2.9 trillion. You can't even meet. You barely meet 50% of your capex budget. This is a government that is still doing 30-40% of its revenue target. So where do these things come? But I have no problems with constituency project, right? It's fine. But I thought they have their own, budget already. Like National Assembly they have their own budget. I mean, shouldn't all these things be under that budget? Why do we need to have another, 20% set aside for them for constituency project? And by the way, you still have several other ministries and parastatals that do all sorts of things. I was just checking. You have of course, it's Federal Ministry of Health, Federal Ministry of Water Resources, Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development, which has about 80 billion in capex.
Well, they're saying that the reason why they think they should have that amount of money allocated to them is that they're the ones who feel the pulse of the community. They deal directly with the people.
I agree.
Yeah, it's a majority of them haven't set up their constituency offices. Talking about how people come to their houses or their homes to wait for them on Fridays with their problems. I do not forget. I mean, recently the ICPC started talking about investigating all the constituency projects that have been approved for the past 10 years. Where's that conversation?
I don't know, Val. I really don't know. But look, on paper, there's absolutely nothing wrong in having constituency project. Like some of these senators, they tell you most times when they go back to their constituent or whatever, they attend on typical. If you speak to a typical member of National Assembly, they tell you that they attend weddings, they attend burials, they visit, they do all sorts of things, and at each point in time, there are donations being made, there are boreholes to be built, and all that. So what they probably need to do is to tackle the agencies of the government that are meant to actually provide these services or these things for the people, rather than start to create new avenues of waste for the government.
But what do you say about this day report that the Federal Executive Council has granted approval for the Gateway platform under the auspices of the Ministry of Finance and Budget and National Planning?
I won't waste too much time on this, Val. It's not a bad development. It's good. What it just means is that for anybody who apply for waivers, from import duty waivers, you can basically go on an online portal and you can see it and all. But there's just one key part that I just want to read out. And maybe this is really why this is happening. It says here, the portal is an undertaking in the form of PPP between the Ministry of Finance and Messrs. 4Core. The way they come up with these names, 4Core Technology Solutions. The company would develop, deploy, manage, and transfer back to the ministry. Develop, manage, and transfer back to the ministry over a 10-year period. They will earn 10% of the revenue.
Wow.
Thank you.
Are you serious? Well, just yesterday we talked about how the Office of the Attorney General or the Accountant General built a portal for free.
Be there.
From their own expense.
Be there.
Wow. Trevor Noah's Lapel Pin says, what a okay. Bashir Ahmad and Garba Shehu both said that the Punch had the right per free speech to call the president what they want. Now they're sending a different message. It was a signal that decided to call the president dictator, and that CNN picked
so
up.
Signal, I think the online portal.
Yes, please.
Colin says the presidency should hide their head in shame for the two-mouth response to Punch's editorial. Free press indeed. If they try to fight Punch, that may be the undoing of this administration.
As Garba Shehu said, it's not within their power, while additional trivialized it by saying Punch can do what it likes, that it is a proof of the president supporting free press. For me, is it against the law what Punch planned to do?
No, it's not. To the best of my
All right, knowledge. So while you're at it, for me, let's talk about the crack in the presidency as reported by The Guardian. So crack in presidency as Aisha Buhari lashes
What a
out.
crack.
What a crack.
What crack are we talking about?
I mean, shouldn't this be a grapevine story?
No, it shouldn't.
Story.
It's such a freshly pressed story. Please go into it.
Okay, so our first lady has lashed out again on social media against the senior special assistant to the presidency on media, saying basically his main offense, from what I can gather, is that when it concerns her, he doesn't come out to clarify issues. Apparently, the story about her being locked out from the presidency at the time of her return, so she's a bit upset that he didn't come out to clarify to state that he had to be a media team.
So the president or the special assistant on media?
No, the special assistant on media publicity that it was, the whole brouhaha surrounding it was false.
Yes.
There was nothing amiss between her and the president, and that she had expected Garba Shehu to come out and clear the air, but that his silence sort of fueled the rumors, and so he must be working for Mama Dara and receiving his instructions from Mama. I mean, this is cracks. The thing is cracks in the presidency, but is it what I'm yet to really determine is whether this is cracks in the villa as opposed to cracks in the presidency.
Yes.
I mean, is this
very good question?
Private villa
Yeah.
crack versus crack in the administration of government?
But since it's the first family, it piques interest of Nigerians. Everybody wants to see what's going on. And once that was made public, how about addressing it publicly and put it to rest?
That's why Funmi said that we should put you on grapevine. Iku says, the Punch article ranks way up there as my article of the year. The editorial was published on the front page, hence the reason it was a heavy punch felt by the presidency. Even Anthony Joshua did not punch Andy Ruiz as hard over the weekend. Great journalistic work. All right, then we have from Fumilola in Lekki.
Fumilola says, quite unfortunate. Aisha's outburst is a reflection of the president's grip on the household and further buttresses our fear that he's not in charge of the affairs of the nation. People speaking in favor of the president and calling us whalers. It should continue. We're in this together. It's a sad one. I worry for my country. The severity of this issue has propelled me to comment for the first time. Good morning. Fumilola, we appreciate you. Thank you so much. And Yewale from Ikoyi says 20% more to steal. Except this federalism is crushed and we go back into regional government or outright referendum to split. When's going on anywhere? The country is being ruled by a collection of people from the Stone Age, he said, and except we decide to take away our country by any means, we're in serious trouble. Well, it's something somebody else said that got him rearrested. Well said. We hear your views. Thank you very much, Funmi, and thank you, Ugo. They're both at Funmi Odude. That's for Funmi. Ugodre is at Ugodre on Twitter. And thanks to everyone who sends in messages on WhatsApp, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube.
All right, the show continues. Now, the show that Funmi was referring to, the Grapevine 981, is coming up in a few minutes. Find out if we're going to be talking politics or if politics in there. 8:15.
The headlines, the stories,